Good afternoon. I'm Coach Robinson, and this is the 7th grade mathematical curriculum course. Today's lesson will be focused on multiplying decimals. The last lesson for 7th grade was dividing decimals. I realized I made the video and didn't show y'all how to divide a decimal by a decimal. So I'm gonna give y'all some key principles right now. So just imagine if we was dividing 0.4 into 1.2, right? All you have to do is take the decimal and move it one place. And if you move this decimal one place, you have to move this decimal one place as well. So take this decimal. Now the new problem becomes 4 divided by 12, which we know is 3. Let's do 0.72 divided into 11.52. So now the same rule apply. You have to move the decimal. Now, if you move your decimal one space here, you move it one space here. If you move the decimal 2 spaces, you got to move it 2 spaces. So in this situation, we're going to move it 2 spaces. 1, 2, decimal here, and we're going to move this decimal 2 spaces as well. 1, 2, decimal there. So now the new problem becomes 72. 72 divided into 1152. So we know 72 can't go into 1 or 11, but it can go into 115 one time. 72 to minus 115, 5 minus 2 is 3, and 7 minus 11 is 4. We're gonna drop our 2, 432. Now, how many times do 72 go into 432? Well, we have to try to get as close to 432 without going over. So let's use the number 6. So 72 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 7 times 6 is 42, plus 1 is 43. So therefore, 72 times 6 is 432. So we're going to put our 6 here, and 432 minus 432 is 0. So 72 times 16 is 1152. All right. And if you entered it with the decimal form, you should still get 16 if you put it in the calculator. So it should all still pan out as long as you move the decimal the same spaces for the divisor that you did for the dividend. So now before we get into the main lesson, I'm gonna give y'all one more example. So 2.4 divided into 16.8. Remember the rules. If you want to divide a decimal by a decimal, if you move the decimal space one place on one side, you have to do the same thing inside the box as well. So we're gonna move this decimal place here. The new problem becomes 24 divided by 168. So now, how many times does 24 go into 168? Let's use the number 24 down to the nearest 10, that would be 20. And we know 20 times 7 is 140. So that may be the closest we can get to 168 without going over. So let's multiply. 24 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 2 is 16. So that panned out. So the number 7. 24 goes into 168 7 times, leaving 0. And again, if you put 2.4 and 16.8 into a calculator, you should still get the number 7. Because all we're doing is moving the decimal places. So now let's get into the main lesson. When you multiply decimals, the best way to go about doing this is just to do the problem as if the decimals didn't exist, right? So we want to count our decimal spaces. The decimal spaces are the numbers that's after the decimals, right? So we have 2 spaces for 1.95 and 1 space for 2.4, totaling 3 spaces. So now we're going to remember to put the 3 spaces into the final answer form. So now let's just do the math. 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 2 is 38. Carry the 3. 1 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7, right? So now let's move to the next column. Now remember, when you multiply the 1s by the 10s column, you always put that first number in the 10s column. Don't put it over here, because that's where a lot of people mess up at, all right? So 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Carry the 1, and 2 times 1 plus 1 is 3, okay? So now let's add 0, drop our 0. 0 plus 8 is 8. 9 plus 7 is 16, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. So the answer is 4,680. Now let's remember to count our decimal spaces. So we want to count 3 decimal spaces. 1, 2, 3. We're going to put our decimal right here. So 1.95 times 2.4 is 4.680. All right. So now let's do another example. 12.6 times 15.3. Now, the key to multiplying decimals is just to do the multiplication as if the decimals didn't exist at all, okay? So let's do the math. 6 times 3 is 8, carry the 1. 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. Now we're moving to the tens column, all right? 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13, carry the 1. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And now we're moving to the hundreds column and multiplying it by the ones column. When you do that, you want to write your first number in the hundreds column, okay? So 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. All right, let's add this all up. Drop our 8. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. And 2 times 6 plus 1 is 9. And remember, you always count these spaces, and the spaces is the number after the decimal. So 12.6 has 1 space, and 15.3 has 1 space, equaling 2 spaces. So you want to start with the last digit and incorporate your 2 spaces. 1, 2. Your answer is 192.78. So for our last example, we're going to do 9.76 times 0.48. So now let's count our decimal spaces. The spaces are the numbers after the decimal. So for 9.78, that's 2 spaces, the 7 and the 6. And then 2 spaces for 0.48. So totaling 4 spaces. Okay, so we're gonna remember this at the end. So now let's do the math. 6 times 6 is 36, carry the 3. 7 times 6 is 42, plus 3 is 45, carry the 4. 9 times 6 is 54, 54 plus 4 is 58. Okay? 4 times 6 is 24. Carry the 2. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 2 is 30. Carry the 3. And 9 times 4 is 36, plus 3 is 39. And now since this is 0, we don't have to factor this at all. So let's do our addition. Drop our 6. 5 plus 4 is 9. 0 plus 8 is 8. And 9 plus 5 is 14. Carry the 1. So now let's remember our 4 spaces. We'll start from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer is 4.48. And you can just leave that. Okay. So the answer, so 9.76 times 0.46 is 4.48. So this concludes the 7th grade mathematical curriculum course. The next lesson for 7th grade will be integers. We're going to add integers, multiply integers, and define integers. Okay. If you need any tutoring of any magnitude, I can be reached at Unity Tutors 216 on Instagram and Unity Service 216 at Gmail. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.